Last night, we made the very last minute decision to run at a new track that we've been planning on running at for a while now. We went to Clinton County Speedway, and the reason it was so last minute is because our truck was in the garage until around 1 o'clock. We didn't know if we would have it back in time to haul out, but we got the truck back, and I got picked up straight from school to go racing. Clinton's way different than any track I've ever raced at before. It's bigger, it's faster, it's wider. Before last night, the biggest track I think I've ever ran at in the 270s, Greenwood, or somewhere around the size of Greenwood. So it was a huge change of pace. At Clinton, you're probably going about 30 or 40 miles an hour faster at the end of the straightaway than you are at Greenwood. It's safe to say it was a huge change of pace. It was nothing I was used to, and it took a whole different driving style. Once we got to the track, we rolled the car out and started working on some of the changes we had to do to make the car ready for Clinton. After the car was ready, we went up to register and do some of the paperwork we had to do since it was my first time here. I pulled a 9, which put us starting pretty far towards the front. Right after I registered, we had a driver's meeting, and then I had to go back and start getting ready for warm-ups. So before we get into the warm-ups, I turned my GoPro on before I climbed into my car. My dad thought it was off and then tried to turn it on, but he actually turned it back off. So we don't have any in-car camera for the warm-ups. And then the same thing happened before the heat race, so we don't have one for the heat either. So there's no GoPro or no in-car camera for the warm-ups or heat race. I tried to use as much footage from the stands as possible, but it's pretty poor quality and not all of it's usable. So I'm sorry about that, but here is what I could use of the warm-ups. A major takeaway I got from warm-ups is that I need to be way higher in the straightaways, especially on the backstretch where there's no walls. Being so low on the straightaways is killing my speed through the turns, and I just can't carry it on exit, and then that also hurts me in the straightaways. So being that low is kind of hurting me everywhere, and being on a big track like this is really different. I've never ran anything that's even close to this big. But also racing on different tracks is refreshing sometimes, just trying something new and getting away from what you're used to. So it's kind of nice. We roll out second for our heat race. Again, there's no GoPro footage, so I tried to save as much as I could from the stands, but it's not the best, so sorry about that. But here's the heat race.
Come on, kid. Oh, no, no, no. There you go. Yeah, baby.
We had a pretty good heat race. I started second and got to the lead, and I think it was the first turn I took the lead. I held that for the majority of the race. I ended up dropping back to second, but I put up a good fight. I had a really good crossover that you can't really see in the video, but I also drove side by side for a turn and about halfway down the backstretch, which was pretty sketchy. I think we tapped tires, but I ended up dropping back to second, and I held that until the last corner, and then I got passed for third. But we had a drag race to the finish. Unfortunately, I couldn't get him back, but it was not a bad run. We went second to third in the heat race. I still have some things to work on as a driver. I don't think I was quite high enough in the straightaways yet in some cases, and I really need to keep my RPMs up more on exit, which shifting later in the turn should help that. I'm rolling off for the feature 8th out of 20 cars, and we do have the GoPro video for the feature, so here's that. One thing I wasn't really ready for is how hectic the starts here are. As soon as the green dropped, people were everywhere. I dropped back a couple spots off the initial start. I gained one spot back off a restart, and then I gained a couple spots due to people dropping out and not finishing, which put me finishing 9th for the feature. I still have quite a bit of things I need to get better at this track. I believe I was still too low in the straightaways. I also really need to get better at keeping my RPMs up on big tracks. I actually burnt the strap pretty much completely off the plug, and I started to put a hole through the piston. If we would have had a couple more laps in that race, I would not have finished. We would have burnt, but it was able to pull through. Another thing that I noticed is at most tracks I'm used to, I feel like you need to enter early when you're racing in traffic, and getting under people is going to be more beneficial than carrying momentum. But with here, because of how much more speed you're carrying at the end of the straightaway, the only thing you really need to focus on is carrying momentum through the turns, so you have all your speed on exit and through the straightaways. But that's something I'm really not used to, because usually on smaller tracks, if you kill speed through the turn, you're going to be able to you're going to be able to get that speed back up once you get back on the throttle, and it won't hurt you that much on exit. But here, if you kill speed through the corner, your exit's going to be horrible, because you won't be able to get that speed back up as quickly, if that makes sense. I'm really bad at explaining this, but it makes sense in my head. So I really need to work on getting higher in the straightaways, keeping my RPMs up, and carrying momentum through the corner. But for my first time racing here and my first time at a big track in general, I think we had a pretty good night. It was a great learning experience, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do here with some more laps under our belt.
Yeah, baby!